Now tuned into the greatest. Turn the music up in the headphones. Tim, you can go and brush your shoulder off. I got you. Yeah. If you feeling like a pimp, nigga, go and brush your shoulders off. Ladies is pimps too, go and brush your shoulders off. Niggas is crazy, baby, don't forget that boy told you, kid. Turn up your shoulders. I probably owe it to y'all. Probably be locked like a force.
Welcome to another episode of Straight Lions Talk Podcast, your Detroit Lions information center for everything happening Detroit Lions football. Well, the day is almost here, guys. The first preseason game is tomorrow night against the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Detroit Lions will face off a team they have been practicing with the whole week. So it's going to be more of a makeshift scrimmage for the Lions during the game. A lot of starters won't play, and I know it's nothing to get excited about, but hey, it's here. It's better than what's on TV now. It's better than not having football, and it just ramps up the anticipation for the Detroit Lions, especially if they do well. We'll all be jumping for joy, and this is the year. And you're going to have the fans that say that the Detroit Lions are the same old Lions preseason champs, and to some respect, they have a point. But I think this team's going to be different this year, and we'll get into all of that today. But as usual, we want to tell you where you can find us. You can find us on a variety of different platforms. You can find us on Instagram, Vine, Stitcher, iTunes, YouTube, Spreaker, and coming soon, just hired a new IT guy. He is designing our Facebook page as we speak. That should be coming soon. And we will also be on Facebook. So you can find us on all those different platforms to find your source for everything happening in Detroit Lions football. Right now we're going to go with Lions News of the Week. The Detroit Lions have had joint practice with the Pittsburgh Steelers all week, and it's been a mixed bag. The Detroit Lions is something I think that they need to do. A lot of teams do this. A lot of the top teams do this, and I'm glad the Detroit Lions are trying to get into that upper echelon of top teams, at least maybe not record-wise this year and maybe not talent-wise, but at least in a philosophical sense for the team as an organization, that they're trying to take steps forward. This is what to expect. This is where we want the team to be going forward. And that's going to be the expectations of the Detroit Lions, is nothing but top-level competition, top-level players, top-level organizationally, top-level coaches, top-level front office. Everything's going to be top-level. And that's great. That's something the Detroit Lions haven't had. They've been a mediocre franchise, and I think that's a good thing. But practicing with the Pittsburgh Steelers, a lot of injuries have come from this recent one-week scrimmage with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Darius Slay, there's no news on that injury, as we know. Jim Caldwell will not talk about injuries, and this injury is unknown. We don't know what it entails, and it's a little bit nerve-wracking, but it's 4 weeks before the first game, so I don't think it's anything for us to be too concerned about. The Lions also lost Ian Wells, another cornerback, so they're getting a little bit thin again. Every time it seems like they add depth to that position, they get a little thin. Not that he was maybe a top-level performer, but he was someone I expected to make the team this year for the Detroit Lions. He had a devastating knee injury, and he was also injured released by the Detroit Lions. Eric Ebron, the big news of the week, a player of the Detroit Lions, and a player actually we here at Straight Lions Talk had as our stud of the year on offense. And it was feared at first to be an Achilles injury. Now, we all know Eric Ebron's a little bit of a drama queen. We know that he's a little bit immature, but as it turns out, that ankle, what was thought to be an Achilles injury, has turned out to be just a low-grade ankle sprain. I don't know why he had to be carted off the field. Maybe he was scared. Everyone in the crowd said they heard something pop. The Lions don't talk about injuries. They don't discuss them at all, so we don't know where it actually stands at this point. But with any luck, maybe he can get back on the field week 1 for the Detroit Lions, because as much as you want to dog Eric Ebron, he still is a threat, and he can be an asset on the offensive side of the ball. And I believe this year was going to be his breakout year with the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions, after releasing Ian Wells, also added another cornerback, Rashad Reynolds. Rashad Reynolds also formerly played with the Jacksonville Jaguars, signed there as an undrafted free agent, played his college football at the University of Oregon State. And he hasn't had a very lustrous career up to this point. He's just a camp guy at this point, and maybe the Lions can get something out of him. But the Lions need to catch lightning in a bottle one of these times with one of these undrafted free agent signings from another team, a guy that bounced around a roster that comes to the Detroit Lions and just happens to fit the scheme perfectly. The Detroit Lions need to have that happen for them to take that next step. You need a little luck along the way. You need a guy to pan out you never saw coming, a guy you signed that was an afterthought, or a draft pick that was an afterthought, a draft pick that you thought could be potentially this player and actually turns out to be that player and a little bit more. The Detroit Lions need that luck. And, going into training camp, that's something that we were looking for. And we actually got to go to our first training camp practice last Saturday we were there. It was a great experience. I mean, it's something I've always wanted to do, and that was only possible because of NFL Draft Bible. NFL Draft Bible set us up. It's a company that we have been working with over the last year, and they've given us the opportunity to do a lot of great things that we were unable to do prior to joining their team. We went to pro days, we went to Lions training camp. That was just phenomenal. Got to do some interviews. It was a lot of fun. You can find those interviews on YouTube. We got to do interviews with Danquan Bolden. We got to do interviews with Marvin Jones, Jim Caldwell. It was just a great day, and I would highly recommend to anyone, even if you can't get in as a member of the media, going there as a fan is quite an experience. You're up close and personal with the players, and it's just a good time. You actually get to see how it all starts for the Detroit Lions, what these guys have to go through during camp. What is our biggest concern for the Detroit Lions going into their first preseason game tomorrow? For me, it's what is the defense going to look like? Because that is something that I think needs to improve. I think we can be a very good team this year if the defense can stay solid. Now, we all know the offensive line is a work in progress, and a lot of you out there are probably saying it's the offensive line is something that you need to watch. I would say that's the biggest concern for us. That's our second biggest concern. I don't think it's the concern that people are making it out to be. I just think the offensive line needed upgrades, and I think Bob Quinn made those upgrades in the offseason. They just need some continuity, some cohesion, and some time playing together to really help them gel. I think that's the thing they're missing the most. I think this first preseason game could be a little dicey offensive line-wise. Don't expect Matthew Stafford and them to play much more than a series. Maybe some of the younger offensive linemen, Taylor Decker, Dahl, Graham Glasgow, guys like that, Chase Ferris, they could get a significant playing time, and they need it. They need to experience this NFL-level talent, and hopefully they can play against some starting NFL-caliber defensive linemen or some high-level backups against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh Steelers used to be known for a lot of odd blitzing, and that zone blitz was something that was really hard to scheme against offensively, and that was something the Detroit Lions it would have been nice to have them see that. Now they don't run that type of defense as much, but for us, the Detroit Lions, what we're going to be looking at is how the defense looks this year. Is it going to look different? I've always wondered this. I've said this 100,000 times on this show. What is the team going to look like now that Bob Quinn's the GM? People saying that he's not going to meddle with anything and he's going to let the coaches do what they do. I don't believe that for a second. I believe he's going to have his say on how he would like to see how the team, I think he's going to have his say on what the team looks like on the field, how they run their tempo, what they do defensively, how they scheme people up offensively. And I'm just kind of curious to see how much we blitz, how aggressive we are, and what we try to take away, because that's something we also need to watch for. The Detroit Lions are probably going to take away things this year more so than they did a year ago. Look at them to take away during this overall the preseason, not tomorrow so much as the starting point, but as the preseason games go on and the starters and the roster gets trimmed down, expect the Detroit Lions to maybe become a team that focuses solely on stopping X player. Look at them to stop this or to attack this on offense. Maybe a weakness on the opponent's defensive side of the ball. So those are the things we're going to be looking for. But ultimately, I really want to see how the defense is going to react. We're actually going to do a show. A friend of mine was recommending, he's like, hey, what do you think the biggest question mark for the Detroit Lions is? And I was, doing some thinking. I was like, I don't know, maybe the defense as a whole. He's like, no, a player. And he said, I think it's DeAndre Levy. So we were going to do a whole show talking about what the biggest question mark for the Detroit Lions is, and we were going to focus solely on DeAndre Levy, but he ended up being put on an injured pup list prior to us doing that show. So what we think is the biggest question mark up at this point, I think I'm going to go with Theo Riddick, because he had his breakout year last year, and I guess what's he going to look like this year? What kind of player is he going to be when teams are looking to, scheming up for him? He's not such a dark horse anymore. And can he repeat the success he had last year? Can he match that? That's kind of what he needs to do for me to have success. Can he get, 60 to 80 catches? Can he have the same receiving numbers? Can he be a threat out of the backfield? A lot of reports coming out of camp and in the early offseason and OTAs that Bob Quinn was looking at Theo Riddick more as a receiver in the slot, not so much as a running back. He wasn't taking a lot of running back reps. I think he's an underutilized running threat for the Detroit Lions. I'm not saying he's Barry Sanders. I'm not saying he's a top-level running back in the league, but I think he could be very effective against certain opponents in the running game. And I think it would keep more teams honest when he comes into the game to have that threat of the pass and run. So Theo Riddick is our player that has the biggest question mark on their back up till this point right now, as the preseason has moved along and going into these preseason games. I'm curious to see how they're going to utilize him this year with such a deep receiving core. TJ Jones, Marvin Jones, Golden Tate, Anquan Bolden, Jay Lee. A lot of guys have stepped up. Cole Wick. Guys like that have stepped up and performed very well. I think offensively this could be one of the better offensive teams for the Detroit Lions in their franchise history. I think Matthew Stafford's going to have a breakout year. Ultimately, again, it comes down to the offensive line. I think they'll be better than people are expecting. It's gloom and doom. Everything you read coming out of camp, the offensive line can't compete against the defensive line. And I think some of those drills are skewed for the defensive lineman to win. I think some drills are also skewed for the offensive lineman to win from what I witnessed in my short time at camp last week. But Theo Riddick, he really needs to step up. For the Detroit Lions to have a lot of success, he needs to be a threat out of the backfield. Having Amir Abdullah is a great running threat. I think he's a better pass catcher than he gets credit for. Fumbling issues last year was something he needs to clean up and work on going into this season. I think he's going to do that. But ultimately, Theo Riddick needs to perform at a high level and maybe take that next step. Maybe he needs to become more of a dual threat option and become a player they can't really afford to take off the field and make it hard for Amir Abdullah to get reps, for Stephen Ridley to get reps. I just hope he gets the opportunity for that, and when he does get the opportunity to run the football, he runs with a lot of bad intentions behind those pads. I think that would really help the Detroit Lions a lot this season if they had a running back that was a true threat coming out of the backfield, whether it's running the football and receiving, then having these specialized backs that do things very well. Now, the New England Patriots, for years, never really focused centrally on a running back. Corey Dillon was probably their most prominent running back in the Bill Belichick era. Other than that, they've kind of just had LeGarrette Blount and some guys, and they've made it work. They've won championships. You can't argue with it. I don't think they value the running back very high, but we have some potential at running back. There's some good running backs. I think while we were at camp, if you watch Amir Abdullah, he was amazing. He was obviously the best of that group of running backs. Theo Riddick didn't get any time in the backfield when I was there. It's kind of scary. I hope that they don't just utilize him solely as a pass catcher. I think there's a lot more to his game, and I think the offense can look a lot more dynamic with Theo Riddick doing a lot of different things in the offense, lining up in a lot of different positions, making teams guess to what's going on in the same formations. But I guess we'll see. Another interesting note coming out of camp, and something I think that's being blown way out of proportion, and maybe some of the beat writers are getting a little bit bored of writing the same articles and searching for stories is this notion that Marvin Jones is looking like Detroit Lions' number one option with these, joint practices, playing against the Steelers. Marvin Jones caught 7 balls while Golden Tate caught 2. Expect that. That's what we talked about a minute ago, why we wanted to watch the defense, why we wanted to see certain things, if we wanted to see if Quinn's going to put his stamp on this team. That's what the Patriots did. The Patriots, not what they did, that's what they do. That's what the Patriots do. When Bob Quinn was there, Tom Brady would throw. The whole offensive system that week was designed around the opponent's weaknesses. And I believe that's what we're going to do. No more of this, that's our scheme. We're going to run our scheme. Our scheme is this. This is our offense. We're going to do this. This is our defense. We're not going to change. We're going to make them adapt to us. No, we're going to adapt to them. But we're going to attack their weaknesses. We're always going to be in attack mode. And you can expect that from the Detroit Lions this year. That's something I want to see. I want to see that the Detroit Lions and what they're going to look like offensively and defensively as these preseasons move along and as we get to the rosters get trimmed down and some of the players that really will never be in the league are off the team and it really gets more competitive. I want to see what this team looks like attacking another team's weaknesses. Are they going to? Are they just going to stay in their system? Are they going to take advantage of a mismatch? That's something the Detroit Lions haven't done in a long time. It's something that's always kind of driven me just absolutely crazy. And this whole notion that Marvin Jones is the team's number one, that's just searching for stories. 1 week, Marvin Jones could be the team's number one receiver. And Stafford will look like, hey, is Stafford falling in love with Marvin Jones? Is Golden Tate mad? No. The next week, it could be Golden Tate catching 12 balls and going for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. The week after that, it could be Anquan Bolden. The week after that, it could be Theo Riddick. The week after that, they might run the football exclusively. That's what you can expect from the Detroit Lions. We've been saying it for, 6 months since Bob Quinn has been hired. This is what the team is going to look like, and I truly believe that. I can't wait to see if our bold prediction is right, that the Detroit Lions are going to be a scheme-diverse team. They're going to attack teams' weaknesses. That's my biggest thing I'm looking for in this preseason period for the Detroit Lions is what are the Detroit Lions going to look like as a team and organization going forward under Bob Quinn. That's my ultimate. I just can't wait to see that. I would love to see them attacking a team's weakness. If they have a bad right guard, just loading up one side and attacking it. If they have a bad left tackle, attacking it. If they know a team isn't good at, the quarterback can't handle the blitz up the middle, if they just keep doing that. They know if a team can't run the football and they throw a lot, they just go a whole bunch of defensive backs. If you ever watch the Patriots, they just go with what the team doesn't do well. There's no system. There's no anything. Tom Brady might throw it 60 times 1 week. The next week he might throw it 20. Just depends on what the matchup is. And that's what I'm most curious to see for the Detroit Lions. And you can expect Marvin Jones to catch 12 balls 1 week. You can expect Theo Riddick possibly, TJ Jones, Cole Wick, Eric Ebron, whoever it is, however it sets up, that's what the Lions are going to do for success. If it just means dink and dunk passes, that's what it is. If it means driving the ball downfield 12, 15 yards, that's what they're going to do. That's what we believe they're going to do, and that's what I hope they do. I hope they become a more not wait for things to happen, but make things happen type of team and organization. And it's looking that way under Bob Quinn up till this point. But their game against the Steelers this week, obviously, like we said, is Friday night. What can we expect? Not a lot. Matthew Stafford, like I said, the starters will play minimal. I'm excited to see, like I said, the offensive line. How are they going to play? The defensive line, I'm curious to see how Gabe Wright, guys like that, are progressing. Curious to see Alex Carter, a player I have not seen yet. I'm curious to see Nevin Lawson play. Killebrew, a lot of these rookies that we drafted, Jay Lee, I'm curious to see what he's looking like. Basically, just centrally focusing on the rookies. But number one, I'm really going to look at Chase Ferris, a guy we have picked to be the rookie free agent pickup stud of the year for the Detroit Lions, a person I think is going to make this roster when it's finally said and done. I know the reports coming out of camp is that he is struggling, and when I was there, he looked like he was struggling. I believe he will get it. I think he'll get this figured out. I believe he's a great talent, and I just hope he can make this roster because I believe he goes to the 53-man roster, I believe if he makes it to the practice squad, someone's going to pick him up. Another thing I'm going to be looking for is tempo and competitiveness for the Detroit Lions. I believe that is going to be key for the Detroit Lions going into the season is their competitiveness. I think this scrimmage, this joint practice with the Pittsburgh Steelers all week really helps emphasize the competitiveness and what level the Detroit Lions need to get to. You remember, the Steelers, up until Martavius Bryant was suspended and Le'Veon Bell was suspended, they were potentially a Super Bowl team. There were a lot of people picking the Pittsburgh Steelers to be a Super Bowl team. They have a very solid defense. I wouldn't say it's great like years past, but their offense is very, very dangerous. And with Martavius Bryant and Le'Veon Bell gone, they're still very dangerous. So, looking at this, the Detroit Lions got a dose of what it's like to be a championship organization, what it's like to practice like a champion. It's something the Detroit Lions didn't do. They didn't have joint practices. They just practiced, went through the motions, got in the games. They looked great, and then went to the regular games and got just housed, the regular season games. So, yeah, I'm looking for tempo. I want to see how they come out defensively. I want to see how they come out offensively. Do they attack like we've been talking about all show? You know, that's what we're looking for. The biggest thing I want to see is competitiveness. I think Quinn has brought that to this team by the way he's built this roster this year. You can expect more of that year in, year out. So that's what we're looking for, the competitiveness of this team. I think he's brought that. But I believe Bob Quinn has made everyone work for their jobs. And you can expect players not to be out there dogging, playing hard till the whistle. That's what I'm looking for in this Bob Quinn era for the Detroit Lions. Something else I wanted to touch on that I wanted to touch on earlier is when we talked about the Eric Ebron injury. I'm just going to go ahead and say this. I don't think losing Eric Ebron, it would be a little detrimental to the team because he is a factor and he is a threat, like we talked about earlier. I don't think it'd be the end of the world with Cole Wick. I think Cole Wick might end up being a player I wish I would have taken as a rookie stud, the undrafted free agent rookie stud coming into this season instead of Chase Ferris. I just believe Cole Wick is going to be that hidden gem the Detroit Lions need. He's going to be that Gary Barnidge. He's going to be that Antonio Gates, Julius Thomas. That, you know, could he be that guy? Will he be? I don't know. I shouldn't say that. But could he be that guy? Can he be that lightning in a bottle the Detroit Lions so desperately need to happen? Can he be the undrafted free agent that, you know, ends up going to Pro Bowls, becomes a difference maker at the tight end position for the Detroit Lions, a guy teams can't figure out how to cover? You know, can he be that guy for the Detroit Lions? And I think he can be. You watch him, he's a very good, you know, actual tight end. He lines up in line as a tight end, decent blocker, runs good routes, tall, good hands. And he seems like he's a smarter version of Joseph Fourier. I kind of thought we found that player in Joseph Fourier a couple years back when he had that 9-touchdown season. He was such a threat in the red zone. He seemed very athletic and fluid and a difference maker at the position. But for whatever reason, he and Jim Caldwell didn't see eye to eye. It just didn't work out. But I believe losing Eric Ebron is something that is detrimental to the team, and it could affect the team if Cole Wick doesn't work out. But I believe he is going to work out. I just really like his makeup. I like the way he carries himself. Watching him at practice, everything about him I liked, just in general. Just, you know, first opinion when you meet someone, or first opinion when you see someone, because I actually didn't meet him, but when you see him and you kind of get that first impression, it just seemed like a guy that carries himself very well. With Eric Ebron, I got the feeling he's a little bit mature, talks a lot out on the field, but it's not like he's trash talking, he's just saying dumb things to get a laugh out of people. It just seems like he's kind of insecure and a little bit immature. So, with that said, I hope he does come back healthy for the Lions because, again, he is somewhat of a threat. He is something that defenses have to pay attention to when he's out there on the field. And at times he can be effective when he's actually catching the football. But that's our show for today. Our next show will be talking, obviously, about the preseason game and what we saw, what we liked, what we didn't like. But that's our show today. You guys have a good one. We'll catch you guys next time.